There we go.
Is it start? Okay, so what am I gonna Okay, so what am I gonna talk about today? Today, I'm talking about cyberpunk and how it relates to real-world capitalism. So first, let's go on a little history. Capitalism started, I think, around the 18th century. Well, that's when we first found out about it, but it's been around for a long time. It does derive from most trading systems where people would just trade goods in exchange for like something they think is of equal value or better. But instead of trading goods, we trade currency for goods. Now, a little history on cyberpunk. Cyberpunk was inspired a lot by the anime slash manga Astro Boy, which was made around 1962 by Ozumo Tezuka, if I remember correctly. It did mainly start in 1986 with the release of the manga Akira, and that was a big drive for how a lot of cyberpunk media holds itself up together nowadays, like Ghost in the Shell and Cyberpunk 2077 and Blade Runner. Now, to talk about the themes of cyberpunk, it's the theme that I want to talk about, which is the fight against capitalism, is more of a background theme in a lot of cyberpunk media. And it's really prevalent with more of the side characters than it ever is with the main character, but I feel like it's still an important part because a lot of the main villains in these series are high achieving philanthropist businessmen. For example, like a corporation in Cyberpunk 2077 or the government officials in Akira, or just the guy that made the variants in Blade Runner 2049. They're all people who are exactly like the people we see now, like Mark Zuckerberg and Donald Trump and, you know, the CEO of Google. I don't know her name honestly, but yeah, I mean, there's not really a lot of relation in personality, but I feel like their business practices are pretty similar, which may sound very far-fetched and not in the way that you'd think, but if you do look into it, they do a lot of shady things that isn't as extreme as it is in these games, but is definitely like something it could lead to. Now, what I want to talk about next is more of the architecture and how weirdly similar it is to ours. The architecture in most of these cyberpunk games is a brutalist type of architecture, which I found out means that like it's a type of architecture to take up more space, to show the power that these buildings have, and to show how much area they can take up without anyone really doing anything about it. Now, I'll pull up two pictures right here, one of Night City from Cyberpunk 2077 and the other one of Shibuya, Japan, Shibuya, Tokyo. They're both oddly similar in the way that the buildings are structured and show the amount of advertisements they have. And I'll also pull up maybe the cityscape of Akira with the cityscape of New York. You'll see a lot of similarities there with these big, large buildings that take up all this space and are meant to have all these advertisements and stuff. And that's pretty much what the main brutalist style of architecture was made for, like advertisements taking up space, trying to keep us enclosed. And I find it really cool that they're able to show this in a world that's very far from reality but still has some sort of closeness to how our society works and everything. And so I kind of just want to take a moment to give all these pieces of media the praise that they deserve, because they're all really show how much power these corporations can have. And I think it's really something that people should look a lot more into and try to inform themselves a little more on. But I just find it really interesting and cool, and I feel like everyone should study it and play these games for how weirdly similar it is to a lot of their lives. And even the side stories in most of these um, movies and games and TV shows can be oddly reminiscent of maybe people you know or even yourself at times, especially with wanting to be someone in a world of Night City like Cyberpunk 2077, or accidentally stumbling upon some weird government experiment like an Akira, which probably won't happen, but I just find it really cool. So thank you. So to give a brief summary of what all these pieces of media are about, Cyberpunk 2077 is about the character you play as, V, essentially trying to become this big guy in this open world of Night City, but in the middle of that he gets an an implant in his brain, which kind of gives him a second human, or it's more of an engram of a human that once lived before him, and it's really interesting. It's kind of more you have to play to find out or watch to understand kind of thing. And Akira is about a guy, the boy named Akira, stumbling upon a weird military experiment where they're trying to use these telekinetic humans as like more bio weapons, for their own warfare kind of tactics and stuff. And it's really weird and interesting, but it has an amazing art style, and I feel like you should watch it. Blade Runner 2049 is about this officer named K who is trying to hunt down these other variants created by this corporation, and I mean it really just goes into detail on like his love life with the hologram that he owns named Joy, and kind of shows like how he feels about killing these people and why he thinks he shouldn't do it, and like kind of shows his descent into how kind of mad he goes for killing all these variants, which are pretty much him himself because he's also a variant. And so now I also wanted to mention something that is a pretty prevalent part in a lot of these cyberpunk media, and that is posthumanism. So posthumanism is kind of a robots coexisting with humans kind of thing, but it could also be taken as like a trying to improve human lives with technology and stuff like that, which is really prevalent in Akira and Cyberpunk, especially with it being a main gameplay mechanic in Cyberpunk, and Akira having those telekinetic humans with the power, people with the power to like move stuff with their minds and stuff. They were created and like kind of made to be upgraded and worked upon to be better. So that's also a really interesting thing that I found in a lot of cyberpunk media, even in Ghost in the Shell, and also Alita Battle Angel. Those are both like post-humanized worlds where people are living with robots while they also have stuff like robotic parts and stuff like that. And it's a pretty interesting concept, which is also goes into the main story of Cyberpunk 2077, where the engram in his head is basically just like a post-humanized guy living inside of a real guy's body, slowly taking it over with like his own DNA. It's really weird. Like I said before, it's something you kind of have to watch or play to understand, but I just find it really cool. Okay, thank you for hearing me ramble. I hope you guys learned something and go out and play or watch these movies maybe. And Dr. McConnell, I hope you like my explanation. I hope I didn't completely butcher post-humanism for what it is. I know I probably did because I don't understand it very well, but still thank you for hearing me out about what I'm talking about.